Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services in Eastland, Texas. Tune in every week as we share important information to help you and your family live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, legacy and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Hey everybody, this is Sam Barker with Aaron Kennedy with Black and White Market Minute on Life Planning 101. It's been a crazy day, crazy week in the markets. Aaron's going to bring us the lowdown on everything and kind of give us an idea on what's going on out there.
Hey everybody, it seems like it's been forever since we've been on one of these things, and unfortunately it has been. It's been several weeks since we've been able to get up here, but man, we have been digging through it. We've all been busy. Sam and I and the rest of the team has really been putting our nose down and been learning a lot and pretty dang excited, especially about this AI. And everybody's throwing around the words AI. So all I'm going to do is talk a little bit at opportunity and what this is going to change. Don't really know if today's the best day to invest in AI because everybody's excited and things are super expensive. But just from how this is going to change our lives, I want to touch on that for just a second. Listen to that last quarterly report from NVIDIA, and it was shocking, to tell you the truth, downright scary. And I've talked about this a couple times on both of our last get-togethers at either the dinners or the luncheons. So I apologize. I'm going to try not to say the same things I did last time, but computer learning is here. AI, although not perfect right now, and it's still learning, it is here, and it's going to change our lives. So just looking at NVIDIA, so let's see how far we've come. It wasn't even 5 years ago that our computer systems were kicking out a little bit over 350 billion bytes a second. Well, today we're at 1.8 trillion. And by the end of this year, we're going to be, 256 trillion bytes a second. Just think about how fast that is and how fast those computers are kicking out information. Now, the beautiful thing about NVIDIA is not the semiconductors. Yes, they're state of the art and best in the world, but the infrastructure of how they're bringing all of these servers, computers together to get them to work as one. And they're unrivaled in the world. They do not have competition. I was telling this to somebody the other day listening to Broadcom, which is, I think, the second largest semiconductor company. They just went over $1 trillion. When asked how they were going to compete with NVIDIA, they just laughed and said nobody can. And this is a full company, and they're explaining how they're going to partner with them and work it with them, but they're not going to compete with them. So they are light years ahead of everybody else out, and just this technology, it is advancing at such a rate, it's just hard to comprehend. And computers just aren't looking at Wikipedia and all of our different posts over since the internet's been created. It's starting to learn from videos, pictures, anything on the internet, not just numerical and alpha tech or input. It's learning from everything,
Including how we behave in habits and
yes,
things like that, different algorithms that, whenever you're looking at a picture, what you're looking at is 1,000 itty-bitty different squares of color that all come together to make a picture. That's how they're looking at pictures. Well, whenever they're looking at not just your post and the contents of your post, but your post in context of all of your other posts, it's teaching the computer about, your personality, your habits or beliefs, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's nuts. And, one of the things that you've been hearing, if we bounce to crypto real quick, or Bitcoin is destroying the universe, how much energy they need to mine, this just a horrible, horrible thing. Not even close. The computers needed for AI is blowing that out of the water, and nobody is saying a single thing. And that's going to be, we've got two things holding us back: electricity, and how fast can NVIDIA get these out the door. How fast can Taiwan Semiconductor create them and get them out the door? And that's where we're being held back. What has to happen? You know, we need more energy. There was somebody that just came out. Maybe it's Qualcomm or Oracle. They just bought 3 nuclear reactors to go behind their facility. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but Amazon's buying nuclear facilities. Someone just bought or wrote a contract to be able to use 3 Mile Island again. So that nuclear facility, that's going to come back online. We need energy, and we need a lot of it. I've been hearing a lot of people worried about the energy market and what happens if Trump gets elected. And if you're listening to me, I'm not picking on you. This is just one thing I wanted to address. We can drill all we want to, and we can gobble up every bit of that energy that we can produce. I know there was, in the oil industry, earlier in this presidential cycle, you know, it was very difficult to get funding from the oil and gas industry. And it hasn't been easy to produce, but we're back to where we're at all-time highs producing. They've found a way to do it. And I really don't think we're going to be able to push it that much higher from where we are now. Now, cost to get it done, getting it permitted, all that's going to be quicker, but we still have only so many rigs, so many employees. Although I hope we produce a lot more, I would love it if energy prices come down. It's not going to hurt us.
And what are they using in the energy industry in order to become more efficient? AI, semiconductors, and they're getting a lot more technical and efficient that way. So
yes, I think it was. We should do these on like a Wednesday instead of a Friday afternoon. I'm thinking about high school football. No. I think it was Goldman Sachs. They just came out with a report that Asia is going to need about 50% more energy to run their AI. 50%. That's a lot.
yeah,
And I wouldn't be surprised if here in the U.S. we need 50 or 80. You know, just look at China, not China, California, almost the same thing. You look how much they're struggling. They want everybody to be in the EV vehicles, and it's just not possible from how much electricity they have.
we're not built for it yet.
We're not built for it. So we have all of these uses for energy, and we just can't put it out there. You know, there's so much wind and solar that you can do, or let's go build some plants. Let's get some things that is using natural gas that's going to produce electricity. Let's go build some nuclear facilities, get more electricity. We need some long-term things that are very efficient and put out a lot of electricity.
Something that I've heard a lot about lately, and you know, lately the last 12 months, ACU has a program where they're playing with and evaluating nuclear reactors that are surrounded by molten salt, and you can fit these on the back of an 18-wheeler. I haven't done the research on the numbers, and I can't verify anything, but they say that it could run the city of Abilene with one of those nuclear reactors.
I've seen pictures of some of them, and they're not that big. Maybe a large Morgan building or something like that. And I think they're calling them pods.
Yeah.
And you can link them together and buy as many as you want for whatever electricity needs you need. That's coming. I think the only thing that's really slowing us down is regulation and how long it takes to get those things up and running. Did we talk about that last time? Read a report that China can take about 3 years to get a nuclear facility from start to finish. And it takes us 15 to 20 years. something's wrong. And I don't even want to think that maybe China's rushing it so fast that they're not going to do a good job. I don't want to even think that way. I'm just thinking more regulation. It really is a hindrance for our economy today.
Yeah.
So,
Going back to the energy and how it relates to chips too, I've been seeing where they're more interested in moving some of the components of the chips to glass. That way that they can tolerate the higher temperatures and the fluctuating temperatures, because plastic, it's going to warp, expand, things like that, whereas glass, not only does it last longer, it doesn't become brittle as fast as plastic. And so then you have the micro or the fiber optics. I think glass is going to be a lot more a part of our computers than it currently is.
There's a little show out there on Netflix talking about AI and computer learning, and it was shocking, some of the things that are in that show. A couple of guys out there were messing around with DNA. They were asking this AI program how to produce medicines, and that was their goal. How to produce medicines to help people live a better life. And I don't know if a couple beers were involved or they just got bored and were jacking around. Then all of a sudden they started asking it to build the worst chemical known to man from a poison standpoint. And it started kicking out horrendous stuff that they had never even thought about. I'm not trying to scare anybody there. That was not the point. But to your point of using glass for our semiconductors or any of the things that we've never even thought about, we're going to be able to ask a computer and it's just going to say, do this.
Yeah.
Mathematically, this is possible. From an engineering standpoint or a physics standpoint, this is possible. Do it. And it's going to open our minds, open our eyes, and we're going to start advancing so much faster. You just think you put a computer in charge of its own engineering. We got 3D printing, so we can kick out all the plastic monkey wrenches we want. Why not put them on some kind of titanium facility that starts making durable parts and say, build this, and it just does it. It's coming. It's coming. And this isn't going to be when I'm 80 years old in a rocking chair. No, this is tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're 5 years away from looking back and saying, hey, remember 2024? We didn't even have a flying car.
We still had paper.
Yeah. I mean, it's coming. Because the computer doesn't have any restraints of what has been. That's something Kamala said.
Yeah, I was going to say, you sound like Kamala.
I shouldn't have said that. But we're as humans, we're trapped in this world of this is the way we've always done it. Computer doesn't have that. It's going to think of the most simple things that we've just overlooked because that's not the way we've done it.
There's a company out there, and they have a microscope, a specific microscope that they developed, and they evaluate all of the chips that NVIDIA produces and comes up with, and the defects in those chips are so small. But anyways, the purpose of that company, or the reason that I bring it up, is because they have a subsidiary and they evaluate manufacturing facilities, and they reorganize the facility from a computer standpoint so that everything moves more efficiently. So they'll take a look at it and say, why are you doing it this way? This is going to take you 4 extra steps, when if you moved it here, it'll save you those steps. And then they'll do that for every single square foot of the facility in order to make it more efficient. And so
that's just incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Enough about the excitement of what's going to be going on in the future. Let's talk about right now. Fed just lowered interest rates by 50 bips. It's kind of confusing. We were talking about that this morning. Here's the big question. We're being told that the economy is perfect. Everything is working great, yet the Fed stepped in and dropped interest rates by 0.5%. This does not happen. When things are going good, we do not goose the chicken.
Yeah. Well, and things they're saying verbally, things are going great, but then you had that jobs report come out that said between 800 and 900,000 jobs were overestimated.
Yes.
So, do you think that had a big, influence on their decision, or do you think that they just got behind the ball?
He did say that he can't trust the employment numbers. So we've known that, and we've been talking about that for years now. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The employment numbers are just false. If you go look at most companies out there, they are not benefiting as much as what the economy is showing. Our industrial output is not where we need it to be. Inflation is still raising its head. Credit card debt is at an all-time, I wouldn't say all-time high, but we're approaching that. Savings are getting back down to all-time lows. We had this wonderful little inflation print today, but even that, the inflation was greater than wage gains. So I think there's a lot of things under the microscope, and they're starting to see it and put it all together and say, hey, maybe our economy is built on more than the stock price of NVIDIA.
Yeah.
And that's where we are, and they're trying to wrap their hands around it to make sure that nothing falls apart. Who knows?
Yeah. Not to mention it's going to make debt more affordable for the government.
Yes. I looked at it again today. We're at $958 billion for interest. So the $1 trillion mark by the end of the year, that's here. We're sitting at $35 trillion in U.S. debt, and we're going to be printing another $10 trillion over the next 10 years. So it's coming. We cannot survive with 5% interest. We got to get it down. And regardless of what we think about how expensive the market is, how bad the economy is, so let's quit listening to me and let's pretend this time is different. What if AI comes in and everybody's profit margins double? That's a real possibility.
Yeah.
That's part of one of NVIDIA's presentation pieces, that the expenses of, one of the departments in Verizon dropped by 90%. So if that was all their expenses, what happened to those margins? They went through the roof. So there can be a possibility that we do grow out of this from an economic standpoint and a stock standpoint. That's the crossed fingers, let's hope that happens type of deal. I don't know how close we are to that. This is a beautiful, really, really cool toy right now, and people are trying to use it and being successful at it, but it hasn't been that everybody on the planet is using AI, and we've got to get to that point that it's being useful. And if we can get there before everything falls apart, it's going to be a world that we just don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I know it's
going to be glorious.
Yeah, I know it's people are out there talking to computers, not realizing that they're screaming and cussing at a computer because they didn't get the answer they liked from the individual on the other side of the phone. But it's, whenever you're talking with companies nowadays, not Kennedy Financial, before Jim gives me a call after this, but there are companies out there that are using AI and giving the AI computers a name to introduce themselves. And then, they'll have full-on conversations with people trying to get information, figure out who the person is, see what kind of a candidate or a prospect they would be for their business. And so be careful who you're talking to, and make sure that if you want your information in a computer, that you're being, forthright with your information. But you never know who you're talking to.
You never know. And that's going to get worse and worse. You were talking about the pixelation of the pictures and what AI does. It's been pretty easy up to this point to see what was real and what was fake. You just look at the people's hands.
Yeah.
And if it's something out of a horror film, or they got one pinky that's 8 foot long, it was AI. They really struggled with fingers. They're learning. It's getting harder and harder, and it's not making those mistakes now. We're not too far away from not knowing unless you're face to face.
Yeah, and what do you do whenever the fakes seem real? And how do you know? We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
We'll just have to wait to see. Okay, back to economics. Dropped our interest rates. We're trying to get the economy going. China just came out and said do whatever it takes to get their economy going. they've been struggling quite a bit. And that market is pretty cheap. I think the last I was looking, it was under a 10 PE with 30% growth rates. So, wow, if they do get up and going, that would be a pretty good market to get into. I know a lot of people hate China, and our political beliefs and everything else don't line up. So I'm just speaking from a market standpoint. That place is cheap, and if they can get it going, there's going to be a lot of money made there. And when China's making money, it trickles out to all of Asia. All those little countries are going to be making hand over fist. Japan's going to be making money hand over fist. Japan is one of our holdings, and it's a head scratcher at this point. There was an election last night that nobody saw what the outcome would be. There was a change, and it's a little bit scary because Japan lives off the world of deflation. Everybody there is a saver. Interest rates are, what are they right now? 0.005. That's what they last increased it to.
Yeah,
or 0.0025.
1.5, I believe. Yeah, something like that.
Something.
Ridiculous.
Nothing. And it's been that cheap for a long time. And almost everybody in Japan are savers. So they put their money in their bank. You know, you put 10,000 yen in their bank account and prices drop by 3%. So
You just made
makes sense for
3%.
them.
Yeah.
Okay. This new election, he's promised to do away with Abenomics. So they're wanting inflation on the books. And I don't think of that as bad. He wants no more deflation. So what happens to the entire population of savers if prices start increasing instead of decreasing? What do? How do you buy milk? How do you buy rice? How do you buy...
You buy it now instead of tomorrow.
Yes. So that's going to be a big change if they can pull that off. And what does the world do? The carry trade has been so strong for decades now. You know, I'm going to go out there and borrow in the yen, and I'm going to pay 0.005 as my interest rate. And then I'm going to turn around and buy U.S. dollars and make 4.5%. I mean, that's been the trade. Or it doesn't have to be U.S. dollars, but euros or real estate or whatever it is. It's almost free financing. And if they do away with that,
I mean, we got a snapshot of what it looks like a few weeks ago when they
Yes.
hiked the interest rates unexpectedly, and I think the Japan market was down between 8 and 12% overnight,
yes.
and it affected our markets.
Yeah, quite a bit. And it's not just that. You think about all the debt in this world. All the debt. Are we really going to de-lever the globe? I don't think that's possible. I don't think that could happen. We're going to see something. It can't happen. The world will crater. So this whole thing in Japan is just like head scratching. And when I meant world cratering, just think if somebody came to everybody in Eastland, Texas and said, hey, you got to pay off your mortgage today.
Yeah.
What happens? You have to pay it off today. And it's not going to be that drastic. Just not as much money is going to be made because if they do away with the carry trade. But if not enough money's to be made, people are going to stop doing it. So people are going to quit buying on leverage. And wow, fun world.
Yeah. Well, and maybe, does that mean it's a safer world if the world starts deleveraging from Japan, or does that mean that, we have to go through some kind of a credit event / semi-crisis situation? Because I know that, the more debt I have on my personal items, the more nervous I get. So, what does that look like from a world standpoint?
Feels great. But honestly, when you're looking at big institution leveraging, is 5 times too much, you think? Or no. So if they were buying 5 times the assets with the leverage that they were able to take out, and all of a sudden we say, hey, we're going to do it on a cash basis, that's an 80% loss.
Yeah.
That's buying 80% less things, and I'm not saying all asset prices go down, but if we are buying things 80% of the things we were buying, and prices only supply and demand, and buying pushes things up and selling pushes things down, and we're only buying 20% of what we were.
Yeah, so it's like trying to save up cash to buy a house instead of getting a mortgage.
Yes, how long does that take?
Yeah.
So Japan has me scratching my head. I don't think it's going to last long term, because this is going to put, whatever happens to the globe, Japan's going to be hurting just as bad, if not worse. And oh my gosh, they're just in such a place right now to really take off from an economic standpoint. So I can't really see them doing that for too long. I think they talk tough and then go back to what they were.
Well, if they were going to do it, let's say that you're wrong and they were going to do it, it's going to be the same way they got into the position they're in now, where it's decades and decades of gradual, right? Or do you think that it's a snap, pop, and twist and it's over?
Well, probably not that. If you think back to how fast the Japanese market collapsed, that wasn't a decade-on-decade thing. It pretty much got to a bubble. Things got too expensive, and it deflated. And it changed the way everybody thought, and it changed the way everybody lived. And that was almost instantaneous. I'm not going to put anything where I can lose 80% again. I'm going to save everything and put it in the bank. And they put it in the bank, and it's been in the bank ever since.
Yeah. And it's been, with deflation, it's been working out for them.
Yeah, it's been working beautifully. So we're talking generations of people that have only been doing it this way. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. New behaviors, new habits.
Yes. So, guys, I know we talked longer than the ride home. Apologize about that. We were going to do a short one. But sometimes this just gets fun. You just start talking and dreaming of what can be.
Yeah.
Damn it.
As opposed to what has been. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us today. This is Aaron Kennedy and Sam Barker with Black and White Market Minute on Life Planning 101.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services. If you have questions, you can email them to lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more Life Planning 101. The opinions expressed herein are those of the firm and are subject to change without notice. The opinions referenced are as of the date of publication and are subject to change due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass. Any opinions, projections, or forward-looking statements expressed herein are solely those of the author, may differ from the views or opinions expressed by other areas of the firm, and are only for general informational purposes as of the date indicated. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Smart Money Group LLC. Kennedy Financial Services and Smart Money Group LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by Calton & Associates Incorporated.